more dialogue to push the cause forward.
The Director of Save the Children, West and Central Africa, Mrs. Natasha Quist, said that over 25 million children in Africa continue to suffer due to FGM. The Governor, Western Region, Alhaji Lamin Sane, reiterated the need for all stakeholders to put hands on deck to make sure that FGM becomes a thing of the past.
Today's dialogue is very key. As religious leaders, opinion leaders, all have a stake in this moment in time.
For GRTS News, Edna Musu reporting.
The Gambian Armed Forces hereby informs the general public that it would conduct a series of field training exercises for recruit intake 33B at the Lance Corporal Bojang's range in Brikama from Monday 3rd March to Sunday 9th March 2014. The general public, especially residents living around the area in Brikama and exercise areas of Salaji, Latria, Jambur and Jalambang satellite villages are cautioned to avoid the designated areas from Monday 3rd March to Sunday 9th March 2014. An ambitious electricity development project in Guinea is prompting several residents in that catchment area to vent their spleen against it. Find out why when we return after the short break. Welcome back. The latest developments playing out between Russia and Ukraine following the ouster of President Viktor Yanukovych brings into focus the actions President Vladimir Putin took sometime in August 2008 when Moscow deployed its military to protect Russian citizens in Georgia. As we hear in this report by CFI, the Russia-Ukraine war games in Crimea has attracted widespread condemnations from world leaders.
President Barack Obama was on the phone to Vladimir Putin, urging him to order his troops in Crimea back to base. A few hours earlier, the Russian parliament had given a green light to a military intervention in Ukraine. No operation, however, has yet been announced. But on Sunday, Russian troops were seen along the road leading from the Crimean capital of Simferopol to Sevastopol, where the Russian Navy maintains a fleet. Ukraine's new government has called up its military reserves, qualifying Moscow's behavior as an act of war.
This is the red alert. This is not the threat. This is actually the declaration of war to my country. And we urge President Putin to pull back his military. We are on the brink of the disaster.
An emergency meeting of NATO was called on Sunday. The Secretary General warned Russia against military intervention.
The Secretary General will make a short statement.
What Russia is doing now in Ukraine violates the principles of the United Nations Charter. It threatens peace and security in Europe. Russia must stop its military activities and its threats.
Russia says it is only protecting Russians in Crimea, who make up more than half the population and who oppose the new Ukrainian government. Nationalist leanings are strong here. Many would prefer to be attached to Moscow rather than to Kiev. This woman says that Russia will bring stability to their lives and guarantee a future for their children. We should thank Russia, Putin, all the Russian people. Otherwise, we would never survive. Despite warnings from the West, there are fears of a repeat performance of August 2008, when Vladimir Putin ordered troops into Georgia, ostensibly to protect Russian nationals. In two regions of Georgia, Russian troops are still present 6 years later.
Well, an ambitious electricity project in a developing nation is supposed to make its citizens happy and grateful to the authorities, but that's not what is happening in Guinea's Sangoya district, where the residents remain deeply divided about the significance of the project. The main crux of the matter is that some of the residents of Sangoya district say they have not been given notice to vacate their premises, while others are complaining about the colossal sums of money spent on building houses that have now been rendered white elephants.
The Sangoya district of Conakry is all shaken up. All the houses and buildings with a red cross will be torn down. They're being replaced by high-voltage electricity pylons, and work has already begun. To furnish the capital with more electricity, new cables are being installed, and they will go through Sangoya. But the residents of the districts are resisting their own eviction. They are refusing to leave their homes without being offered new lodgings or a healthy cash incentive.
The project developers want us to leave our homes so they can dig the holes for the high-tension electricity pylons, and then they want to talk afterwards. We want to talk first. The state has promised to give us money for us to move out, but it has been months now and we have received nothing, so we're waiting. We have no place to go.
On one hand, there are demonstrations that sometimes result in deaths for electricity. On the other, people are refusing to leave their homes for electricity lines. Electric power officials in Guinea are caught between both sides and are very uncomfortable about it.
We do not want to be brutal about this. We don't want to bring in bulldozers and simply dig holes for pylons. We want an agreement. We want people to understand.
In Sangoya, among the buildings scheduled to be torn down is a private school. The person who built it with his own money has been given no guarantees about a new structure. It will be one less school in this country.
I worked many years in Europe. I devoted myself to my Guinean brothers and sisters. I was able to build this beautiful school. Now I hear the school will be torn down. This is tough to accept.
Many observers believe that the increase in electricity power is worth some sacrifices. But they have criticized the Ghanaian government for not making public its decisions, nor what is at stake with the increase in electricity output.
We now take our second break. Welcome back, and before we take leave of you, a quick reminder of the day's top stories. Celebrating a century of unity in diversity, several African and world leaders have descended on the Nigerian capital, Abuja, as President Jammeh stole the show with an inspiring speech touching on a range of issues. Local and international entrepreneurs have set up shop at the Independence Stadium as the 7th edition of the annual Lumo kicks off. And in time this time around, consumers have a wider scope of products to choose from. Russia and Ukraine are teetering on the brink of war as both sides are hardening their positions hours after Kiev issued a call to arms. And residents of Sangoya district in Conakry are crying foul after the authorities moved to actualize an electricity project. That was all in this edition of the News at 10. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do stay with GRTS.
Bonsoir. Si vous n'avez pas l'occasion de suivre les nouvelles de la semaine, aujourd'hui, nous avons le plaisir de vous présenter 7 sur 7, magazine hebdomadaire.